we go, out for a little bit of a test ride. Spent a bit of time yesterday adjusting my chain again. Found out that my my rear axles were not evenly spaced from the front. So it was kind of no wonder that every time I tried to tighten my chain, it would everything would feel and sound kind of wonky. So I think I finally got the thing to an actual appropriate tension. Where things kind of make sense, they feel safe. They work. Just gonna have a quick look at it. Tell you the truth, it could probably still even be tighter. Yeah, it's always hard. I cleaned up a lot of it down there. Got it got a whole bunch of gunk out, and I'll be honest, I think there's more gunk down under the cover here than was ever. I don't think it had ever been cleaned. I found a bolt. Nut? Bolt. Yeah, I found a bolt down in there. And it was kind of scary. Because that's the kind of thing that I should never have found down in there. It shouldn't happen. Yeah, I know. I'm doing other things right now. But it was the gunk that was down there, the bolt was kind of out of the way. It was stuck in the gunk. I think everything's kind of straight now. That could have even been the kind of feeling of twisting or whatever I felt when I was riding down the highway. Just a couple of days ago I rode down not that far away. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's about 130 kilometers each way. Took a few major highways to get there. supposed to go in that lane. So it definitely sounds a lot better. I don't have that same noise that I did the last time of I think I took care of some of the issues. It's disappointing because when I bought the bike, and this goes back to some of the other things I've talked about. When I bought the bike, I asked to make sure all maintenance is up to date. I mean, and that's like new oil change, chain cleaned and tightened. You know what? I didn't expect like them to, oh well, we're gonna rebuild the clutch or we're gonna overhaul the engine. You know, those are kind of. I mean, even the valves. There's something that's done like here in North America. They say every 24,000 kilometers. Overseas, anywhere except North America, it's every 48,000 kilometers. So I didn't expect something, you know, that's technically due at that distance to be you know, set up and you know, done right after I bought the bike or whatever. I mean, that was a little bit more than I would have expected. But I mean, I went back, you know, I think I had 22,700 kilometers, so about 3,000 kilometers ago, when I was complaining about the fact that all this stuff, you know, seemed to be off. And they said, okay, well, we're going to do a complete, you know, spring service. I mean, little did I know that even if they did touch the chain, they didn't touch the chain and do a proper tension on it. Because if I had a centimeter difference between the left side, and from the point that I measured it, it was like 72 centimeters on one side and 71 on the other. And there should never have been that much difference. Never should have been that much difference. So I kind of yeah, again, I'm a little bit disappointed in the fact that, you know, did they do a proper service? Or did they do a service? Did they do some service? You know, if you don't know the bike, just going and saying, okay, well, we're gonna move this and we're just gonna like adjust it one turn Well, if you don't know the bike, you don't even know that whether the two sides are even. I mean, granted, it took me a while because I needed to find my 8mm socket in order to take off the appropriate cover. But still, these guys have the tools. You know, it takes them like 2 minutes. And even then, from what I realized is that I didn't even need to take off that cover to do the measurement. I found a common point that's equal on both sides in order to determine whether they were the same distance away from each other without even taking the front socket cover off. But even taking the front socket cover off and seeing, okay, well, what's in there? I mean, I did not get that much stuff on my front socket in the last 3,000 kilometers. I mean, most of it, I mean, granted, I've ridden through, you know, dust and dirt and rain and all that other stuff, but that much, I honestly, I can't believe it. So yeah, I'm complaining about the service that I got for free because they didn't do the service that I negotiated, I wanted as part of the purchase of this bike. And you know what? I learned. You know, the next time I go and take care of my bike, you know, I'm going to have that 8mm socket out. I'm going to take the thing off and I'm going to clean the front sprocket, sorry. I'm going to clean it. I'm going to make sure that it's all nice and lubed up and everything is hunky-dory. I'm going to do that because I've learned. I've learned what's needed. You know, even better ways of cleaning my chain. I'll get there. Anyways, that's I also noticed some stuff in the news when I was visiting my parents a couple of days ago. My mother was noting about the instance of a Baptist priest or minister here in Ontario that came out as transgender to their congregation and seemed to have a lot of support behind her, and everything was great. I just read in the news this morning that essentially the church fired her. I have a hard time with these things because, you know, you were okay and fine with this individual and their soul and their ability to preach the word of God, you know, and then the moment that they say, well, I want to live my true authentic life, it becomes a problem. It's like, I'm sorry, we don't want you now. They were good enough to preach for as number of years as they did. They were good enough to be ordained, you know, as they were. But somehow, being their true selves, because, you know, I mean, and what I understand, you know, Baptists, you know, the Baptist Church allows women to be ordained. So this priest was ordained as a man and now is a woman. They were ordained. In other words, they've essentially got the blessing of God to preach His word. Now it's a problem. And I have friends that say, oh, well, You're, the Catholic Church doesn't allow women to preach. The Baptist Church isn't going to allow a transgender person to preach. It's like, they take time, they do this. It's like, yeah, but when are we going to get to the point where, people aren't discriminated against? I mean, this was a person of God. I'm not religious, but this is a person that gave themselves to the church and the service of the church, and, in the name of God, and living their true, honest, authentic self, is somehow becomes the equivalent of a sin. You're no longer worthy of preaching God's words. I'm sorry, I have a hard time with that, because it just doesn't seem it doesn't seem right. I mean, it's discrimination, and again, it's people will couch that and say, yeah, but it's based upon, they're allowed to, say no to this priest because of religious beliefs. But the thing is this priest, this minister, reverend, pastor, whatever, shared the same beliefs. They were part of the same belief system. They preached the same belief system. The world never seems to end, ever seems to find the balance of fairness. In my mind, it's discrimination, especially when it's based upon a belief system which can't be proven. It's open for interpretation, so much so that different branches of the same church interpret things differently, where even individual churches, whatever, have different beliefs, systems, or interpretations. It's disappointing. Adjusting my chain again. Just a tad bit tighter. See ya.